there's been so much focus on the cannabis industry now that it's become legal here in the state of Michigan. I think I saw one number in 2020. We reached like the $500 million sales mark here in the state of Michigan. And that's legal sales, because we do know there is still a huge underground weed industry. But as it becomes legal in more and more states, how do you get in on investing in the industry so that you can make some green off of the green? Let's bring in Dewey Steffen. He's the CEO and Chief Investment Officer over at the Great Lakes Wealth Financial Planning Company. Great to have you with us. How are you?
Good morning. Great to be here. Thank you for having me. Doing well.
You know, I will say I know so many friends, and, you know, we have Anquinette, yes. Q, obviously she's been such an advocate for the legal marijuana industry, but there is really a great opportunity for people to get in on this industry and make some money off of it. How do you go about investing in the cannabis company?
Well, there's many different ways for probably the majority of the viewers, most American investors. The public markets would be the way to go. There are ETFs out there that do a basket of publicly traded stocks in the industry. There are also certainly individual stocks in that industry. You can find mutual funds that will have components that are in that industry. So, then that's just the public. There is also the private, ventures that are out there as well.
So, if I can ask you, though, because while there is some movement to try to get marijuana legalized on the federal level, it is still illegal, and we know that does present so many hurdles to people in the cannabis industry. Do those hurdles exist when trying to invest in these companies as well?
Oh, 100%, right? I mean, it is still in many regards the wild, wild west, or, in baseball analogies, the first or second inning of the ball game for sure. You mentioned the sales in Michigan just last year. These numbers are growing, in almost all metrics of 20% per annum, maybe more, depending on, exactly what you're evaluating. And so with that, you have still a federal illegal substance that will be a game changer, absolutely, if it does become federally legal down the road. And we certainly believe that that's not just a possibility, but a probability at some point not too far down the road.
So do you recommend that people try to invest now, or is this something you kind of ride out and see what happens?
Well, it depends on your specific situation for sure and what you're trying to accomplish, right? And as we say that also, this is not going to be a core holding in your investment portfolio, your retirement plan per se. This would be a speculative add-on, a satellite investment to the core investments that you have. So no pun intended, but it would be high risk, but potentially high reward.
See, and I guess everyone knows that going in. And I do think that when it comes to this industry, how many states is it legal in now? Is it about 30, I think?
I think 34 states have medicinal cannabis legalized at this point, and that's not going to go backwards. That's going to continue to go towards you get to that magic number of 50.
But we also see right now so many of the colleges are actually starting to offer courses and classes in the marijuana industry, although they have to be creative sometimes with the names because of the federal government. And so with that, how far do you think, would you recommend people go all in? Or are you telling your people, dip your toes? Because what happens when it comes to some of the research and development and the companies that you're investing in, and how long are we talking here, 10, 20, 30 years?
Well, again, I think you need to kind of boil it down and segment it as what we're trying to discuss or to solve with this. If you're taking classes at the university regarding cannabis, it may be, growing cannabis, and that would be, on the agriculture side. When we look at investing in it, we look at those companies that actually touch the plant, and that may be, again, growers, and there are publicly traded growers out there, but there are also those companies that don't touch the plant. Those may be mechanical devices after the cannabis compounds and chemicals are harvested and separated, et cetera. But it also just may be the packaging companies. It could be the distribution companies. So it certainly is a very, very exciting, industry. And the companies there are, multifaceted and multi-sub-industry, if you will.
There are so many different avenues, such as you just mentioning packaging or, the lighting to help grow the actual plant. And so how does someone pick and choose which company to invest in?
Again, you need to do your work. You need to decide what it is you're trying to accomplish. Is it just, companies that have, earnings per share growth? A lot of these companies are not even cash flow positive, let alone earning, positive returns for, the company, the shareholders as of yet. So you really need to understand what it is you're trying to accomplish. There are ways to invest, as we would say, in the shallow end of the pool. Companies that cannabis is not their main driver, but these may be some global brands that just have a cannabis, division within their large company. And then there are certainly ultra, uber aggressive, 100% cannabis, future, chemical compound or distribution strategy companies that, you're really taking a flyer and just crossing your fingers and hoping for the best. So you've got to decide what it is you're trying to accomplish. And we always say, talk to a professional, have someone with you as you're trying to disseminate and go through all this information.
Yeah, don't talk to the guy on the corner who says, hey, I have a great business opportunity for you.
Well, and that's kind of it. I mean, again, you can invest in this privately, right? I think there's a lot of talk around here in Metro Detroit about grow farms and opportunity zones for, having harvested indoor grow facilities. There are also, again, the talk of the distributions or the dispensaries, if you will, and which towns and where in the town. So a lot of people want to, open up a dispensary or become growers. And so, again, it sounds great, but you need to do the economics and understand if it's really going to be something that you can, be involved in and profit from.
Dewey Steffen with us here on the MegaCast. He's the CEO and Chief Investment Officer for the Great Lakes Wealth Financial Planning Company. And Dewey, if I can ask you, when you mention some of the side elements to the cannabis industry, such as the packaging, if someone were to invest in that, because the marijuana industry is still so cash-based, the investment in the side companies isn't cash-based, correct?
Again, that depends on the company and what they're doing. But if it's a company, I think that's maybe less than 50% of the revenues, come not from cannabis, then I think it's different regulation if it's 50% or more. And again, don't quote me on those percentages or the strategies therein. But again, it depends if you're looking at a public company versus a private company, and if you're trying to invest directly, as part of the investor group versus, again, doing it maybe more simply of just finding an ETF. We at Great Lakes Wealth, we run a cannabis investment portfolio. But again, just do your research to find what would be appropriate for you in your specific situation.
Yeah, always do your homework. And it's like you said, you want to talk to a professional because it's your money. And I do feel like what you said, it's the wild, wild west out there. I don't know how many times I've been offered to get in. Hey, do you want to invest? I'm, have a farm up in Armada, or hey, can you grow some plants for me? I'm like, yeah, my neighbors would love that, So there are ways to do it and to do it right. Can I ask you, because I've always wondered about this, we do know it's illegal to drive under the influence of cannabis and marijuana, just like it is alcohol. But is there a test for that right now, like we have for alcohol?
It's a good question. You stumped the teacher over here. I don't know the answer to that one. I'm going to imagine that law enforcement has some specific tests, if you will, that they can certainly, I would imagine the smell test to see if you can smell it in the vehicle or on the person. I would imagine that might be the very first one.
Well, a lot of the drug sniffing dogs, they've had to, they can't be utilized because they have been trained to sniff marijuana, but now marijuana is legal. So some of these drug sniffing dogs have been, put into retirement a little bit early. But if you find a company that comes up with a way to test, just like, for alcohol, I'm down with that. I want to invest in that company because I think law enforcement across the country would want in on that.
Yeah, no, and I'll pivot from that just a little bit to say, actually, I think the smoking of marijuana is on the decline in the United States, and it's the other approaches to it, edibles, oils, certainly rubs and CBD. So I actually think that, you're onto something that whether it's, marijuana sniffing dogs, but, whether it's gummies or other edibles, I think that's, and some liquid approaches to it are going to be kind of actually the cannabis uses of the future.
See, that's why you talk to someone such as yourself who's such an expert, because, again, so many different avenues. Because who wants to walk around smelling like a big old pot leaf all day, right?
Absolutely. You got that right.
I remember one time we were downtown, I think in the Cadillac building or somewhere, there were these guys, they were like, in their hard hats, they were doing like roofing construction or something. And they came in from outside. We were like, whoa, guess we know what you were doing on your lunch break. Not so smart. Hey, Dewey, while we have you here, I know we brought you on to talk about the cannabis industry because it's like you said, it's, it's a great way to, if you do your research, to possibly get in on the ground level there. But can I also ask you a little bit about like cryptocurrency and Bitcoin? Where do you think all of this is going right now? It's been a roller coaster ride.
It has been a roller coaster ride, certainly, but it's also a brand new innovative industry, and that being cryptocurrencies and the blockchain. We have a podcast here at Great Lakes Wealth, and it's endearingly called What Do We Do? And we have actually done 2 episodes, and it's on YouTube as well as on traditional podcast mediums. Platforms. We've done 2 on cryptocurrencies. The first one we did, we talked about, again, just the the infrastructure, the blockchain, kind of explain what cryptocurrencies are. So for any of your viewers or listeners that aren't savvy enough to understand this, check out our podcast, and it really gives a very simple explanation of what blockchain and cryptocurrencies are from our perspective. And then we recently just did one on these things called meme stocks, and more specifically Dogecoin and these other meme coins. And so we actually got into the next level. We called it cryptocurrency 2.0. So that's kind of a little backstory to why we can talk about it briefly with you. We're certainly not experts, but we do have a digital asset strategy that we run as well. And one component of that is cryptocurrency and digital currencies. So with that, Bitcoin is certainly the grandfather at this point of it. It started at, let's say, zero, very close to zero when it first started in 2009. And then lo and behold, went to 60,000+ a few months ago. Here it has come back down to 30,000 basically as of today. And so either you have this, enormous run over the last, say, 10+ years, or you have this huge crater drop in the last few months, depending on your perspective. So we think that there's definitely an allocation in your portfolio, no matter who you are, but it also would be very small, just like cannabis, 1%, 2%, 3% of your overall investment portfolio. Again, depending on who you are, talk to your professional.
So where do we find that podcast? Because that is such an interesting and fascinating topic to me.
Yes. So again, the podcast is called What Do We Do? And it's on Spotify or Apple iPodcast, Podbean, etc. And also YouTube. Just go to the GreatLakesWealth.us YouTube channel, and it's all there on video. And so you just have to scroll. We have 42 episodes thus far. And we actually, one of those, going back to cannabis for a second, we interviewed Darren McCarty, D-Mac from the Detroit Red Wings. He's an ambassador for a cannabis company now. And I think that was episode 33 that we interviewed Darren McCarty regarding, the CBD and other cannabinoids besides THC. So again, we encourage you to check out our podcast, and we're happy to answer any other additional questions you might have.
Well, it's been great talking to you. We so appreciate your time.
Well, thank you for having me on, and I hope you both have a wonderful rest of your day.
I like the name of your podcast. It's very creative.
Yeah, well, we appreciate it, and we are setting up for season two of the What Do We Do podcast. It will drop. Episode 1 of season 2 will be the Wednesday after Labor Day. We have 2 a month. One is with a spectacular guest every month, and then one is on a topic du jour, a timely or timeless investment topic. So again, we're excited to share with our community what we know about investing. Today it was obviously cannabis and cryptocurrencies a little teeny bit, but everything else out there, as we say here, we're just getting started.
Dewey Steffen with us here on the MegaCast, CEO and Chief Investment Officer at Great Lakes Wealth Financial Planning Company. Check them out on their website and also their podcast.